Grand jury in the case of Breonna Taylor. That grand jury decided not to charge any of the three officers with murder in the shooting death of the 26-year-old. She was shot in her Louisville, Kentucky home by those police officers back in March.
Well, this morning, two other Louisville police officers recovering after being shot during the demonstrations, although it is not clear if it was protesters or others who came in and were responsible for the shooting. Authorities say a shooting suspect is now in custody, but again, it is unclear if they were actually a part of the protest. Well, last night, local leaders from the NAACP say the protest in response to the lack of charges for the officers who shot and killed Breonna Taylor are just the beginning. They say people need to take action to make sure change happens. Here's what Galen Knoyton from the NAACP shared with News 3.
The young folks can continue on demonstrating. That's fine, because people need to be on top of people's minds. But at the end of the day, we have got to go to the polls to vote. We have got to have policy change, write legislation, and get legislators to support our legislation to make sure that criminal justice and police reform happens so that people are protected all the way around. Breonna Taylor her life should not be done in vain at all.
Now, the NAACP says its number one goal is policy change and to hold lawmakers accountable for their actions. Well, that grand jury decision in the Breonna Taylor case also sparked protest here in Hampton Roads.
News 3 reporter Anthony SABELLA live in Norfolk with what unfolded there and the message from protesters. Anthony.
Yeah, good morning. A quiet morning here now in downtown Norfolk, but if you were here last night, you may have seen people coming out holding signs. You may have heard chants of "Say her name, Breonna Taylor," and "No justice, no peace." We saw about 50 protesters take to the streets here last night. It was a peaceful protest here with about 50 people gathering at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial and then marching toward downtown. Now, Black Lives Matter 757 organized this protest following the news that the grand jury indicted a police officer, Louisville police officer Brett Hankinson, with felony charges, but only for endangering Taylor's neighbors and not for her death. Now, Kentucky's Attorney General says police were protecting themselves because Taylor's boyfriend was shooting at them, but the Attorney General also says officers announced themselves before entering the home. But protesters here say Taylor should not have been killed. They say that police should not have been in her home.
That means that a cop can walk into my home. As a Black woman, you can kill me and there's no accountability.
It's not okay to just turn a blind eye to racial injustice, even though I absolutely have that privilege to not see it.
And that woman you just heard from spoke with News 3, says that she brought her kids to the